Hello, everyone. I'm Trish Campbell. I am going to be talking with my good friend Nadine Searle of Calmer Self. We're doing one of our lovely Love Me Chit Chats, and I'm just waiting for her to get on. So I'll just talk a little bit about the energies we're in right now. I think when I was talking about us doing this session, we were on the heels of the new moon in Libra, and it was at the very end of the sign of Libra, and we're now moved into Scorpio. So Libra is all about and feeling those energies still, and as this new moon that it builds, we continue to feel that build of energy, but Libra being the sign of justice, of law, of relationships, ruled by Venus, which is all about love and beauty and having that perspective. We may be feeling some sort of, I feel like, and it was opposing Chiron in Aries, which was also square to Jupiter in Cancer. So squares are a challenging aspect. The opposition is a challenging aspect, and kind of bringing up areas of healing that we may be resurfacing around relationships, perhaps, and all kinds of relationships, and where that falls, what area of your life that affects also is determined by what, like your natal chart, if and where, what house that is in for you. So if you want to find out more about that, if you don't know, please send me a message and I can help you figure out that area of life, what house that's in for you. But I know myself, I'm a Libra moon, but it was also hitting, Aries is in my 7th house of relationships. So feeling that intensely. And then now we're moving into this energy of Scorpio today. Scorpio season starts, and Scorpio is the sign of intensity, of, I would say, determination, of passion, of things of the underworld, like watery depths. It's a water sign, the subconscious, intuition, all of that. I think a lot of times Scorpio gets a bad rap because a lot of it is below the surface, but I find it one of the most intriguing signs, and I love this energy right now, and it's so fitting for what we're talking about, that subconscious intuition, and we're going to be talking about kind of reverting to our old ways when we have an experience, and an experience that kind of triggers that old way of being within us. And our actions are all about, most of our actions are driven subconsciously. And so that's our nervous system responding a lot of the time. So we're going to talk about that, like what happens, because we talk about things that happen in our own lives and our own experiences. We know there's parallels, like you all have told us, like that you can resonate with what we're sharing. So we just want to have these conversations out loud. And sometimes it's like real and raw, and that's okay. And I think, we all go through it at times. So it's just, perfect time to have that conversation and talk about different ways that we can kind of move forward through that in a maybe healthier way. So yeah, I'm just waiting for Nadine to join us. We're also starting the shadow period of Mercury retrograde. So you may be feeling some of that slowing down. Mercury is all about a review period. A lot of times things resurface for our review, such as relationships. So again, this is all like connected, and I'm so glad we're talking about this. And again, when I say relationships, I'm not just talking romantic relationships, and it can be, but it's relationships are how we relate to each other. So when we are, reacting subconsciously, a lot of times that causes like problems in relationship and challenges. So that's why we want to talk about this, and talking about some of the things we've kind of learned in our own experiences. And with this Mercury retrograde, again, it's a time to slow down and maybe hit the pause button, do all the reflecting, review, reset, rest, recalibrate, rebalance, all of the things. And just kind of, slow down in life a little bit. And I think we're forced to a lot of times because there's a lot of tech issues that happen as well during Mercury retrograde. So here's Nadine now. I'll let her in, and we can get on with our There she is. Hi, Nadine.
Hello, Trish. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How you doing?
Good. I'm good, thank you. Very good.
Yeah, that's good. Um, I was just wondering, I had a chance to talk about a little bit about the energies we're going through right now and spoke to how, like, we always have these conversations around the new moon because it's a time of, like, we can set that intention for ourselves. And when I was talking about these, or we were posting about it. It was Libra new moon, very at the very tail end of the sign of Libra. And now that we're having this conversation, we're now in Scorpio season, which is also very relevant, being that Scorpio is a sign of the subconscious and intuition and um, depth, determination, passion. But I want to focus on the subconscious part of that because it really
Mm.
ties into what we're talking about today on the topic of um, kind of falling into old patterns or old habits when we're faced with a uncomfortable experience. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on like the
Mm.
energies right now? What are you feeling? Is that resonating for you or?
I think so because it's so easy to, they're our go-to, aren't they? Those old habits, those old patterns, however much we've moved on, however much we've healed, we've done work on ourselves, however we
Hmm.
want to look at it, they're still there. Um, which I didn't think that was going to be the case. I thought once you move through, once you learn something different, you do different.
Hmm.
But they're still there. Those old go-tos pop up without you
Yep.
expecting it sometimes, don't they? And I think, for me anyway, I'm sure it's when things catch me unexpected, and especially when fear comes up.
Hmm.
My body, then my ego, however you look at it, is protecting me, and it will go back to those old ways, whether I've learned different or not. They still come up. And I'm sort of getting more comfortable with that, thinking that, well, this is just what I do, this is what happens. And it's being very conscious, isn't it? Being aware and going, oh, here I go again, this is what I do. Um, but it just happens so often, doesn't it? And it is, and I still
Hmm.
go, oh, that again. It is because
Yeah.
yes, I am learning, I'm evolving, I'm growing, I'm going, all of that kind of stuff. But the old me, if you like, or those old patterns, those old things are still there. And much as it used to frustrate me, I think I'm always like quite fond of that now. I go, this is what I
Hmm.
do. And again, as long as I'm conscious, as long as I give myself that moment, like we say, sometimes pause and think and choose,
Hmm.
then I can go, okay, we carry on with that. Or I can go, hang on a minute, let's try it another way. And at the moment, my phrase, if you like, mostly in my head, is let's see if we can do this another way.
Oh,
Because
nice. Yeah.
that's that's quite gentle, isn't
Yeah.
it? I'm going to do something different. I'm trying to be kind and gentle to
Hmm.
myself. To go, don't go. Oh, you're doing it again. You've got to do something different. You've learnt different. That kind of. So I'm trying to have that gentleness about how I choose.
Hmm.
And at the moment, that's working quite well for me because it just opens me up to
Yeah.
go. There could be another way. You don't have to do it. You can do what you're comfortable with. You can do the. I can go either way. Um, and surprisingly enough, I do go forward rather than back, so that's good.
That's
So
good. Yeah.
it's I'm in a process. I'm really in that process at the
It,
moment of trying different ways. Still quite uncomfortable, I've got to be honest. But yeah, that phrase seems to work for me because it's like when I was learning to say no to things. I went like,
hmm.
"Can I come back to you on that?" instead of saying no. So it's like for me personally, it's finding a gentler way of saying things to myself as much as anything.
Hmm.
How can I say that differently so it's not because I am a bit of a black and white person. I'm very much is one way or another. So this is a bit of a grey area in the middle that I'm trying to step into to give me that space and time to choose, to learn a bit, to try out different ways, because it's all
Right.
a bit of trial and error for me. That's my
That's what it
progression.
is, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So does that
And
make sense? Like,
it everything you said, I mean, is so powerful and so true. And I think it's like beautiful to take that pause. I want to go back to, and I want to speak more to that. But first, like something you said early on caught me, and I'm like when you're in that moment, and you're like, oh, this again. This is how I respond. Oh, I thought I healed this, and
yeah,
I want
yeah.
to touch on that because something I've learned recently, probably over the last 6 months, is. Um, And I'm just now like having a handle on the awareness of it, I think, or just a real grasp on it, is that, you know, we do this healing work. We've been doing this. We met through like these ways and have helped each other heal
Yeah,
in all the various ways that we have our own processes and methods of helping people.
yeah,
And when we're doing that, we're doing it in isolation. We're not doing it in relationship to somebody else. So, and I spoke to that at the top while I was waiting for you about relationships and how it's not just romantic relationships, but it can be. But it's like relationships are about how we relate to each other. So it's like a person on the street, it's our coworker, it's our family member, it's our partner, whatever it might
mhm,
be.
mm,
But it that is when the real healing begins. So we get into these situations where we think we've done our healing work, and we have. That's not untrue. It doesn't negate our experience of doing the work. We have healed some parts of ourselves. We'll say
yeah,
that. But it's when we're in a relationship that we see a deeper area of hurt or pain or wound that's been triggered, and that is where like that pause can be our friend, where our subconscious is like, our subconscious is driven by our nervous system, and it's like warning, 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 something doesn't feel
yeah,
right here. I'm
mhm,
going to react the same way, like autopilot, react the same way I have in the past. And then we get caught up in, oh, I'm doing this again. Like I thought I healed that part of me. Why is this affecting me this way? Because we're now in relationship with somebody and they're holding a mirror to us. We're seeing a part of
mm,
ourselves that we haven't seen yet or
yeah,
before.
mhm,
And so, but it's like that pause that you said. I love how you said, how can I do this differently? Something I've started doing too is kind of like, because I've had experiences where I'm like, darn it, I wish I could go back and like, I know better than to behave this way. And I'm like, but it's in the moment now of like giving ourselves that pause, like you said, and then kind of identifying what it is that's coming up in us. Like, because when we pause, we can let that emotion rise without
mm,
acting on it
yeah,
immediately. And
yes,
then identifying what that is, like that makes me angry, or I'm really frustrated, or whatever. And then speaking it out before then taking action, saying something, sending a text, whatever, with that emotion behind it.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think it allows us to do things differently when we do that. I mean, that
mhm,
like is, I think, what I've been practicing doing. And I
mhm,
think it's working. I think it's like that pause, like you said, is key in this
yeah.
circumstance.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I love. If I can remember to pause, it's pause before everything. Pause.
Mm-hmm.
The pause is so powerful, isn't it? And so valuable in so many places. So remembering the pause is really good. If we can, we can't always, like you say, when we're reverting back to old things. And for
Right.
me, it comes up in fear more than anything. If I'm frightened, then the old
Mm.
stuff comes up, and that's fine. That's understandable, isn't it? It is protection, and it is. It's very rarely life threatening, but that's where it comes from, isn't it? So I think there is that. But I think from what you just were saying there, and I love the idea that it's almost it's a practice. Like you say, we do our healing work quite often in isolation when we're not triggered, when we haven't got all these things around us.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in my work with clients, I encourage them to practice when they're in a calm, safe space, and that's how I work with them. We get in that lovely, calm, safe space first, then we actually work on what we're working on, and then we're done, But we're not done, are we?
No.
Because we need that then. And I say to people, then when this happens in real life situations, you practiced it so well, it's there for you. Um, and that's really interesting because yes, it is there for you, but your old stuff's still there too, isn't it? So
It
what's
is.
what's going to come up first? What's going to be most apparent? So that's really interesting. But what I thought when you were saying that, then straight away my mind went to, oh my goodness, we want to practice it out in the field, so to speak, don't we? We want
Mm-hmm.
to be. So yes, we want to go. Yes, be out there. I want this to come up again. I want that to be. How many times when I've been having these chit chats with you, when I've gone, oh, not that again. I don't thought I'd done that. But now I'm looking at it, just from what you said, it just hit me of going, actually, I should be grateful of the opportunity to go
Mm-hmm.
there again and practice this again in a real life situation with all the emotions firing up and everything and go, let's see. Do I revert back to my old ways? Do I actually choose another way? Do I give myself a pause and consciously choose? Um, because the more that happens, the more we are getting the opportunity to practice, aren't we? So I love
Exactly.
that. I love that. And it just really hit me as you were saying it. Yeah, we want to go, come, bring it on. I want more of
Bring it
that in
on.
life. Yeah, bring it
And
on.
and it doesn't have to be this big thing. It can be you're waiting in line at the grocery store
Yeah,
and you're like getting frustrated with like the
yeah,
person
yeah,
in front of you is taking forever or whatever,
yeah.
is pushing your button in the moment.
Mm,
It's
mm,
like we walk around with, nobody, just like grief, nobody is exempt from pain and trauma and negative experiences as much
mm.
as some people may, and we even do it ourselves because we want to feel like we're okay all the time because society has conditioned us to, we have to be okay. We have to present as okay all the time
Mm,
because
mm.
it's uncomfortable for people and for everybody when we're not.
Yeah,
And this is a form of that. This is a form of our human imperfection that we're not used to showing out loud or out in the open. And it's like like you said, the more we do it, that's why we're talking about this out loud in the way that we are.
yes,
We're
yeah,
not like, we don't, it's not like we want to always, focus on, because like people can maybe sense that like or have a view of like triggers and grief and pain in a negative way, and it's not that we want to hover in that space. We want to be able to have the capability to be in that space because we're going to be at some point or another, and then to navigate in a healthy way through that space versus always trying to tiptoe around the triggers and try
yeah,
to avoid the triggers from happening.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
when they're happening, then we're not armed with the right tools and capability to navigate that in a healthy way. So it's like face what we're dealing with, face the hard things, the uncomfortable things. And like you said, it's a practice. It's a
yeah,
process. And it's
yeah,
like we're not always going to get it right. We're going
yeah,
to mess
yeah,
things up. We're going to
yeah.
make mistakes with people. We're going to hurt people and maybe say something we didn't really mean because we're acting out of that place of protecting our ego all the time. Our ego
That,
thinks we have
yeah,
to be right, we have to be perfect, we have to protect ourselves. So our subconscious is going to do whatever it can to wedge its way in there and take action for us before we have a
yeah,
chance. So back to
yeah,
that pause, back to the practice, like you
yeah,
said, which is so
yeah,
brilliant
yeah.
and so easy and simple.
It sort of is, isn't it? You know, but
Hmm.
it's not, it's something again to practice, isn't it? Let's just take, and I love what you said earlier about, you could say, um, oh, that's making me feel whatever. Doesn't mean you have to act, but just to say that out loud is quite
Yeah,
hard. And
to
that's a pause in
yourself. Yeah.
itself. Yeah, to yourself or even out loud. You could say
Hmm.
to someone that has triggered you and made you
Hmm.
feel angry, for instance, but oh my God, that's made me feel really angry. I'm not going to do anything about it, but I'm just letting you know and you're processing. It could be that way. That might not work in real life. I don't know. But to
Well,
actually to say I'm feeling really angry doesn't mean you have to act angrily. But
no.
and that really, again, the power, like we say about saying something out loud, we've acknowledged it, we've honoured it, maybe accepted it as well. It might just dissipate then anyway, mightn't it?
It
You've said it,
might.
I feel angry, because my old way of dealing with a feeling of anger was to maybe hit back, like so we're protecting ourselves, we're doing what we
Hmm.
do. The fear comes in and that kind of thing. So again, to say something different, it's addressing that anger, it's acknowledging that that has made you angry. Doesn't mean you have to do anything. So again, I'm thinking, try that one. I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever tried that. So
And and you hit on something that I want to go back to too about that process of naming it out loud, even when you're in like a conversation with somebody and it's not to act on it, but it's like get
mm,
curious about it. So it's like you're
exactly.
naming it to get
Yeah.
curious and to not
Mm,
it's not judgment, it's curiosity about where's
yeah.
that coming from. And you can do that on your own later if you want, or
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
if it's like with a partner that is willing to work with you on these things, because it's going to be the reverse at some point too, where the other person might say something or they might get angry in the moment. And
Yeah.
it's like having that, opportunity for pausing, for naming it, for identifying it, because, and I think a lot of times why we don't want to go there, we just want to skirt around it, is because anger specifically is an emotion that has a negative connotation around it. There's a stigma around it, but anger is always, I won't, I'm trying not to use the word always, is often um, uh, a word or an emotion that is a surface level emotion, there's usually an emotion underneath it,
Exactly.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
sadness,
Yes,
or
you're right.
something is a common one that's underneath anger. So
Yeah.
if we can just get the anger identified and then, clear that through, like instead
Mm,
of suppressing it within ourselves, because then it's just going to build. If we ignore it, it's just going to
mm,
build up, and then you're going to erupt at the wrong person. You're going to react disproportionately in a situation eventually. And like, this is what we want to work on ourselves. Like, we're on this path of growth. And
mm,
like, yeah, we do question at times, like, I thought I dealt with this already. I thought I
mm,
healed this,
mm.
but it's a spiral. And we're going to keep
Yeah.
coming back to experiences and circumstances that allow us for a deeper level
Mm,
of awareness and understanding of ourselves and who we are. And then that only helps benefit like everything we do and put out into the world, and how we act and how we
yeah.
behave, and
Yeah.
try to kind of like mitigate that subconscious from reacting for us on our behalf based on our past, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it really does, because it is that whole idea of yeah, we act a certain way, we do get these lessons repeated back, and like you've
Hmm.
said so many times, and I've really took it on board, we have these repeated lessons, these repeated opportunities, if you like, because we're in a different place, and it's like, and it is a perfect chance then to see, can I react differently? Am I going to, and I love that idea of going, looking at it with curiosity, oh, I can see if I've changed, or I'm feeling angry, but so what's that all about, rather than act on it. And it's a bit, some people listening or watching might actually go, oh really, it's a bit idealistic, but it's worth a try, isn't it?
It
And
is.
you might just do it once, and you've changed a situation, you've changed how you react, you've changed the interaction you've got with another person, which can be so beneficial. If you have someone that triggers you, repeatedly, if you can actually change how you react to them, you changed so much, haven't you? You definitely have shown them your growth and your learning and everything. But what you're doing, as we always say, this has an effect on the other people too, doesn't it? And they're going to react to you in a different way. So
Hmm.
um, I think that whole idea of being curious and going, I'm going to try it a different way and just see. And then just go, oh, well, you don't know what's going to happen, do you? It could be quite exciting, and it
Hmm.
is, and that is learning, isn't it? And growth in the moment. So that's quite powerful, isn't it?
It
So
is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And I just think like, I'm just so glad we're having this conversation, because like, and we always have these conversations based on our own personal, like we have
we
our
do, we do.
our catch up calls and all that, and like what's going on in our life
Yeah,
and all that. And like, when I say, and I bring in that word curious, because it's always been something I've kind of stayed away from, is like just growing up, I felt like I couldn't ask questions. And so now
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to get better at asking questions, like to myself, inquiring.
Mm,
I love how you have that gentle questioning that you take your
yeah,
clients through. And I've been
mm,
through that myself, and it's so powerful. But it's like, this is something like we're talking about because it's something that's always going to be ongoing. Like, we're on this path. I know so many people are on this path of healing. I've talked about, Chiron is the wounded healer in astrology, and there's those energies present for people who have that placement. That's mine, and it's in my seventh house of relationships, of partnerships. So it's like
mm,
that is always like over this little transit of that period. It's going to be there till 2027, and it started, I think, in 2018, which is like, perfectly timed for what I've been through and why I wrote Love Me. And, I think at times when I'm in those situations where in retrospect, I've been triggered, and I can certainly go there and beat myself up for, Trish, come on,
mm.
you wrote a book about like
Yeah,
this. You wrote a
you
book, you
do.
wrote 3 books about this. Shouldn't you
Yeah,
have a handle on it? But nobody is perfect. We're here for our soul's journey, for whatever lessons we signed up for, and I'm here for that. And we always say like, oh, like, we've talked about this before, not always say, but we've talked about the fact that we've chosen this path, and sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it's easier just to bury our heads in the sand and skirt around it and what have you. But I wouldn't choose any other way than to like have this opportunity for a deeper awareness of who I am, because I think we all want to understand ourselves, and not just to like paint a picture of like perfection. It's about, for me anyways, like I feel like I can have a deeper relationship with somebody if I know myself, if I know who I am. And 8 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever, I don't know that I knew who I was. And I feel like I know more now, and I still feel like I'm still learning that. I don't know. Does that hit home for
Yeah.
you or resonate in any way?
It really does, and I've got a little tickle in my throat, but it's that's probably because
Something needs to come out there.
you're hitting home to me. Yeah, it definitely does, doesn't it? Excuse me, just a minute. But I think it is that, as we grow, as we change, and you're absolutely right. You've got proof. You've got these books out there, and go, oh, that's what I was then, and you can see something yourself that is still the same,
Hmm.
and you must go like, oh, I do, I don't know, but that is the reality, isn't it? That's how it is. Where we do change in certain ways, but sometimes we go back. We are still the same person, aren't we?
That's part of who
And
we are. Yeah.
yeah, and maybe we don't want to change that. There's bits, and like you say, we've gone through what we've gone through. I look back at my life, moan as I do about a lot of it. I don't want to change any of it. I really
No.
don't, because it's made me what I am, and it will continue to do that. And it's really hard then, isn't it, to remember when you're going through a tough time in the moment, to go, this is shaping me. There is a reason for this. This is a good thing, if you like, Um, and that's hard in the moment, but it's true, isn't it? When you look back, you go, oh, that was a shit time, excuse my language, that was hard, but what I've got from it is good, and whatever, the
Exactly.
resilience and all that kind of thing. And it is, it's part of, like, no one gets away with it. Like you say, everyone has to go through something. Everyone is learning. It depends how we react to it. Like you say,
Hmm.
we can bury our heads in the sand. We can try not to take any notice, but then, like you say, what are we here for?
What are
We
we
are,
here for?
yeah,
Exactly.
we are
Yeah.
here to learn, and I've said it too, haven't I? I wish I could go back sometimes to my unenlightened self, if you like, but that's not meant to be, is it? That's not, and
No.
I don't really want to go back to that.
Right.
I, I just, there is sometimes a little bit of comfort in that, but also that's reverting back to the old ways, isn't it? Oh, I could
It
just do it
is.
that way, like I used to, because I know that it's so natural to me, but that's not who I'm becoming. But there is sometimes a little bit of comfort in that old me and the old ways, isn't there? And I'm sure everyone can understand that. But
And yeah, that's such a good point, and that's valid. It's valid. Like I think, I've had those moments too where it's like, oh, it was just so easier when I didn't know what I know now, and like, oh, I could
yeah,
just like, whatever. But it's like I
yeah,
wouldn't change a thing, as
mm,
painful as some experiences have been, and as like rude of awakening I've had like about myself and my own shit, as you say. Like
yeah,
it's it,
yeah,
and it's like I wouldn't have it any other way than to just be real and to face it. And
yeah,
it's hard at times. And it's especially hard when you think you've done that work and then you're faced with an interaction and you kind of go, gosh, I wish I would have done that differently or
yeah.
whatever it might be. And it's like, that's okay. It's all part of the process. That person
It
is
is.
wrapped up inside of us. And,
Yeah,
and sometimes, that's why, we can take the opportunity to, um, practice, like you said, bringing that back in and just be real about things and kind of like calling it out. Like you said, I was going to say, if you're angry in that moment to just like maybe later go kind of delineate that or dissect that yourself and kind of be
mm,
curious about that yourself. But
mm,
it's
mm.
so good just to be real with somebody and say, you know
Isn't
what you
it?
just said made me angry. I need to explore that a little bit, but I
Yeah,
just want to let you know that
I think
that
that.
upset
uh,
me kind of
Yeah,
thing. And like,
and
what
that.
is wrong with that? I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly. And to me, that sounds like so grown up. That's such an
It
adult thing
does.
to do, isn't it?
It
And I think,
is.
oh, woo, we could really do that. But I think as well, say, picking up on that bit again, what if we were to actually say it to another person when we notice that they're maybe getting triggered or angry or whatever, to actually say, oh, I've noticed in your, God, I don't know how people would react actually, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Well, I've
Oh,
had that happen.
yeah, I notice you're getting a bit angry. Maybe we can look at what that's all about. I mean, that
Hmm.
might actually make someone go, oh, or it might actually just stop and think, because again, you're acknowledging it. You say you've had that happen to you
Well,
personally.
I wouldn't say like that I was getting angry, but that something was happening, like I was reacting a certain way that wasn't a vocal way, but it was more of an energetic retreating. And that person like maybe didn't say anything in the moment, and I wish they had, because it would have been a perfect opportunity to have that conversation. So going back to what you said about and to work through some things, and to,
Yeah,
again, those are obviously, I was triggered and didn't realize it at the time, and that's something like, I mean, I guess I probably did realize it at the time, because it was something that I was consciously working on in my
yeah,
life.
yeah.
So it with a therapist, and
Mm,
it's
mm,
but I think that it's such a good point to bring it out into the open like that,
mm.
to feel like we can. And again, that just comes with practice. It just comes
Yeah,
with, and that's why I talk about the things that I do. I feel like I have an audience of four, sometimes of four people in the world that are listening to, a lot of times what I post about or write about is like me getting it out. And but it's
yeah,
like these
yeah,
things that I want to be vulnerable, in hopes that whoever I'm interacting with will feel that comfort level, that they can meet
yeah,
me there too. And that's the whole point of our like humanity and connection, because connection is so essential to like
yeah,
our well-being. And I think that if we can just be vulnerable and be the examples and leaders of that,
yeah.
anyone who's listening right now, you too, that like
Mm,
that's an open invitation for us to just move through, especially with what we're dealing with in these times right now. Like
mm.
everyone is struggling in some way or another to some degree, and then there's things on top of grief on top of grief on top of grief. And it's like, if we can just, you know be vulnerable, say this is what I'm dealing with right now, or this is how I'm feeling, and then have those conversations. They might be uncomfortable at first, but I feel like it gets easier the more you do it. That's why it's
Yeah,
practice.
yeah. It does. And when you say that about showing people your vulnerability, I tickle again, excuse me. This is obviously very important stuff that I'm
It
saying.
is. I'm getting
Oh
that
God,
too.
I'm feeling it, yeah, which is good. But it's actually true. I mean, you do this with me, well, for me all the time. You know, you show your vulnerability, which enables me to actually be vulnerable too. And I love that about you and the way we talk together. But I can even get that from the television sometimes. You know, if someone is showing their emotions, then
Hmm.
it enables me to, it gives me
Exactly.
permission, if you like. So it's helped me learn and grow. And I think that's really, really important. So again, like you say, this is one of the reasons that we do this, isn't it? You know, to put it out there and go, give people opportunity, because people do want to open up. They do want to, but sometimes they find it very hard. They don't know how.
Yeah,
To have a
exactly.
have a kind of role model or an example. This is how we do it. And I know years ago when I wanted to be more emotionally intelligent, if you like, or whatever, and I could see other people doing it. I just couldn't do it. But I have learned, and it's because I have got lovely people in my life that model that for me, So, and I think it's how we teach our children, isn't it? To show
Yes.
there is a thing, I don't know if it translates for you or not, but the British stiff upper lip, where we don't show our emotions and we hold it. And how many people have, not so much now, but in the past, brought up their children that way.
Hmm.
And that doesn't help them, does it, to learn
No.
and grow and everything. So they have to find a way, if they ever do, to go, oh, how do I cry? How do I do what I need to do? So again, this is the valuable and why we want to share so much of what we're talking about, because we know it helps people because of the feedback we get. We know that
Yeah.
people, what we say and resonate. Um, but I think you're absolutely right where you say about, I'm working with a therapist at the moment as well. And every time she senses some emotion, she will question it.
Hmm.
Well,
Like, what's
oh, I know.
behind that?
Yeah, she goes, oh, I noticed you getting emotional about
Hmm.
that. What shall we talk about that and everything. And you go, that's her job and that's wonderful. But again, maybe we could do that with people while we're in the moment, rather than sort of skim over it because it might be, like you say, uncomfortable. Maybe try and help people with it. If they
Hmm.
don't want to, that's fine, because they could just ignore it and go, oh, no, you got me wrong or something. But
Hmm.
if you actually offer that to someone, say, no, I'm sensing something there, let's talk about that or something. I don't know how we'd word it, but everyone can work out their own way. But that would be really helpful, wouldn't it? And very kind and caring to offer that to somebody. And it might
Hmm.
very well diffuse something escalating that doesn't need to. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's
And
really interesting. Yeah.
it goes back to, the more we do something, the easier it gets. Like it's just
Yeah,
like when you ask somebody how they're doing and they just say, "Oh,
yeah,
I'm fine." But
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
if we give people the real answer and we start being real with people, it's going to get easier instead of just pretending that everything's okay all the
yeah,
time. Like
yeah,
we would just be so much more we would our relationships would be richer and more depth, just we would feel connected on a deeper
yeah,
level
yeah,
and all the things. And the more we do it, the easier it's going to get. And it's still not comfortable at times as much as we do it. And you and I do it a lot. And nobody likes to break down and cry, but it's okay because it's a human emotion. That's part of who we
yeah,
are. And it's
yeah,
a beautiful part of who we are. And if we can
yeah,
show other people that that's okay, then, I think we just connect at a deeper level. We're nicer to people and kinder to people on a daily basis.
yeah.
It's like, and people we don't know. And we have a sense of peace within us about that too. I don't know. I feel like we could do a part two of this conversation. Like, I
I
feel
think
like we
it's
need
leading
to.
on to, there's lots of little bits, isn't it, that we can lead on to, as quite often is the
Hmm.
case. But I think that's so right, isn't it? To be, it is okay to cry. We've said that so many times, it isn't a weakness. It is something, it's a part, it's an emotion, it's a valid emotion that actually is so true and so real, isn't it? When tears come, there is whether we understand the reason or not, there is a reason. It's an emotion that is showing itself. So why are we taught to hide it all the time? Why are we
Right.
taught to be ashamed of it? It really puzzles me because I used to have big issues with it, and I still have moments when I go, "Oh, don't cry," and then I go, "Oh,
Hmm.
give up," give yourself a break because actually, if that's what I feel like doing, that's what I'm going to do. And
Exactly.
maybe, like you say, we can be like that with all the emotions. We don't stop ourselves. Well, actually, we do. I was going to say we don't stop ourselves when we want to laugh. We do sometimes because it's not appropriate. But
Right.
laughter comes, doesn't it? And sometimes we do
Yeah.
laugh at things we shouldn't, in times we shouldn't. But it's something that comes out of us. It rises up
Hmm.
and comes out, doesn't it? So tears, anger, whatever. And I think you're right. If more people are open and honest and can show their feelings, then we would get more comfortable with it, wouldn't we? It's not
Hmm.
necessarily bad behaviour as it's sometimes seen. It is, well, that person tells me what it's like. And I always go back to my nursery school years, because little
Hmm.
toddlers, 3-year-olds,
Yeah.
did exactly that every single day. Every emotion came out when it was meant to. It was over and done with. It was, it, fine. We lose that, don't we? And maybe to step back into that a bit would do us all a bit of good, wouldn't it? So,
I think so. I think so.
yeah,
And I think we need to continue this topic, this
yeah,
conversation. I think there's
I
so
think
much
so.
more
Yeah,
to unpack. So maybe we do that for our next one,
I,
like part
I
two.
think, I think so.
And
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think? Where can people find you and your
Yeah,
beautiful
the,
work?
the best place, you mentioned some of my Calmer Self method, which is actually on my website, which is
Mm-hmm.
www.calmerself.co.uk. There is a 6-step program, and it is gentle questioning as part of it, isn't it? Sitting with difficult emotions is part of it too. So people can look me up there and contact me if they want to talk about it more and everything. And I know that you support people with all of what we're talking about now, partly with your wonderful Reiki healing, but
Mm-hmm.
you support people in moving through emotions as well. So where can people get in touch with you?
On my website, this is trishcampbell.com, and of course, Instagram, where I'm most active. And yeah, they can send me a DM too here on Instagram. I kind of
Yeah,
said that at the top of the hour. If you want to know more about where this current energy is hitting in your chart, I
yeah,
can help you with that
yeah.
too. And yeah, so I'm just so
Brilliant.
grateful that we get to have these conversations, Nadine.
I so
Always a
am I.
pleasure.
So I love it so much. Thank you so much. And I would just like to add that, you talk to me so much about what's going on planetary and everything, and it really helps me see things clearly. So please do send a private message to Trish and ask, because you know so much that we don't get a chance to share, and you can share that. And it does make a lot of sense of what's going on, doesn't it? So
I
thank
think
you for
so.
that.
I think it does. But yeah,
Yeah,
so thank you for that.
thank
And
you.
thanks for everyone for joining us. We'd love to know
Thank
what
you.
your thoughts are on this if you're watching the replay. So watch for that, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you.